In an upstairs room, a parable is just about to come alive, and while they bicker about who's best, with a painful glance he'll silently rise. Their Savior's servant must show them how, through the will of the water and the tenderness of the towel. And the call is to community, the impoverished power that sets the soul free in humility, to take the vow that day after day we must take up the basis and the towel. In any ordinary place, on any ordinary day, the parable can live again, when one will kneel and one will yield. Our Savior's servant must show us how, through the will of the water and the tenderness of the towel. And the space between ourselves sometimes is more than the distance between the stars. By the fragile bridge of the servant bow, we take up the basin and the towel. And the call is to community, the impoverished power that sets the soul free in humility, to take the vow that day after day we must take up the basin. And the call is to community, the impoverished power that sets the soul free in humility, to take the vow that day after day we must take up the basin. And day after day we must take up the basin, and day after day we must take up the basin and the towel. Take up the basin and the towel. Basin and the towel.
The meditations included in this evening's service are intended to be sung over and over again as mantra-like prayer. Congregants are invited to either join in or simply listen, as one prefers. In the celebration of communion this evening, we will have 2 stations to which you may go to receive the sacrament. Those needing gluten-free bread, it will be available to be served by Pastor Hoffman. The reflection on the last words. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do.
Here is love, caught between the powers of the world and the breaking of heaven. On the long journey home, we do not know what it is we do, and the last word forgives.
Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.
Here is love, found between 2 thieves, crucified among the lost, and the last word turns and promises paradise.
Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother.
Here is love, lonely on the cross and with nothing left, and the last word even now brings together mother and son.
My God, why have you forsaken me?
Here is love, some gargoyle of grace, abandoned by heaven, and the last word breaks with loneliness.
I thirst.
Here is love, and in the last moments of life seeks solace, and the last word in the final moment yet appeals to humanity.
It is finished.
Here is love, and hear what it is like when every hope comes to an end and the last word is finished.
Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
Here is love, clinging to one last hope that not everything is lost when the last word dies.
It was 2 days before the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The chief priests and the scribes were looking for a way to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. For they said, "Not during the festival, or there may be a riot among the people." While he was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the table, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment of nard. And she broke open the jar and poured the ointment on his head. But there were some who said to one another in anger, "Why was that ointment wasted in this way? For this ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarii, and the money given to the poor." And they scolded her. But Jesus said, "Let her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has performed a good service for me. For you always have the poor with you, and you can show kindness to them whenever you wish. But you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for its burial. Truly I tell you, wherever the good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her."
jar for my end. I can't be yours for all time.
All I gave was all I had, poured from a jar. For his hand, he can't be ours for all time.
Then Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went to the chief priests in order to betray him to them. When they heard it, they were greatly pleased and promised to give him money. So he began to look for an opportunity to betray him. On the first day of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb is sacrificed, his disciples said to him, "Where do you want us to go to make the preparations for you to eat the Passover?" So Jesus sent 2 of his disciples, saying to them, "Go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him, and wherever he enters, say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks, where is my guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, furnished and ready. Make preparations there for us." So the disciples set out and went to the city and found everything as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, he came with the 12. And when they had taken their places and were eating, Jesus said, "Truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me, one who is eating with me." They began to be distressed and to say to him one after another, "Surely not I." He said to them, "It is one of the 12, one who is dipping bread into the bowl with me. For the Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to that one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born."
I'm not the one you're thinking. You mean too much to me. Am I the one you're seeing in your mind's eye? I love you most of all.
While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after he blessed it, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, "Take, eat. This is my body." And then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, and all of them drank from it. And he said to them, "This is my blood of the new covenant, which is poured out for many. Truly I say to you, I will never again drink of the fruit of the vine until I drink it new in the kingdom of God." The bread which we break and the cup which we bless are the communion and the body and blood of Jesus Christ our Lord. When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives, and Jesus said to them, "You will all become deserters, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee." Peter said to him, "Even though all others become deserters, I will not." Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this day, this very night, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But Peter vehemently said, "Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you." And all of them said the same thing.
this very day, this very night, you all will run and hide. You all will dare deny me.
They went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter, James, and John, and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." And he came and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. He came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." Immediately while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. And with him there was a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." So he came, and he went up to him at once and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. Then they laid hands on him and arrested him. But one of those who stood near drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to them, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled." All of them fled and deserted him.
but let the scriptures be fulfilled. I cannot change my Father's holy plan. I see the writing on the wall, they'll all be gone, and leave me to the grave.
They took Jesus to the high priest, and all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes were assembled. Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and he was sitting with the guards, warming himself at the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but they found none. For many gave false testimony against him, and their testimony did not agree. Some stood up and gave false testimony against him, saying, "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another temple, not made with hands.'" But even on this point, their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood before them and asked Jesus, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But he was silent and did not answer. Again the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus said, "I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power, and coming with the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your decision?" All of them condemned him as deserving death. Some began to spit on him, to blindfold him, and to strike him, saying, "Prophesy." The guards also took him over and beat him.
you no answer. What is this they say? Are you the chosen Son of God?
I am the man you say I am. You'll see me coming. At the right hand of the Father.
While Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she stared at him and said, "You also were with Jesus, the man from Nazareth." But he denied it, saying, "I do not know or understand what you are talking about." And he went out into the forecourt. Then the cock crowed. And the servant girl, on seeing him, began again to say to the bystanders, "This man is one of them." But again he denied it. Then after a little while the bystanders again said to Peter, "Certainly you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." But he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know this man whom you are talking about." At that moment, the cock crowed for the second time. Then Peter remembered that Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And he broke down and wept.
not know or understand just what I'm accused of. I swear I don't know this Jesus, I only deny him.
As soon as it was morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered, "So you say." Then the chief priest accused him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Have you no answer? See how many charges they bring against you?" But Jesus made no further reply. So Pilate was amazed. Now at the festival, Pilate used to release a prisoner for them, anyone for whom they asked. Now a man called Barabbas was in prison with the rebels who had committed murder during the insurrection. So the crowd came and began to ask Pilate to do for them according to his custom. Then he answered, "Do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that the chief priest handed him over. But the chief priest stirred up the crowd to have him release Barabbas for them instead. Pilate spoke to them again, "Then what do you wish me to do with the man you call the king of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Crucify him." Pilate asked, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him." So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas for them. And after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers led him into the courtyard of the palace, that is, the governor's headquarters. They called together the whole cohort, and they clothed him in a purple cloak. And after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on him. And they began saluting him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck his head with a reed, spat upon him, and knelt down in homage to him. After mocking him, they stripped him of the purple cloak and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him.
Why, I ask you why? Why, I ask you why? What has he done? This king of yours, what sin was his? What shall I
They compelled a passerby who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. It was Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull. And they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide what each should take. It was 9:00 in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him they crucified 2 bandits, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "Ha ha! You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him among themselves and saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him.
For love I will carry your cross to Golgotha. I will bear it to the place of the skull. I will carry your cross to Golgotha. I will bear it to the edges of hell.
When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At 3:00, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "Listen, He is calling for Elijah. And someone ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, and put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down." Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain in the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Now when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this man was God's Son."
My God, my God, why have you forsaken me? My God, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Truly, this man was the Son of God. Truly, this man was the Son of God. The Son of God. Truly, this man was the Son of God. Truly, this man was the Son of God. The Son of God. He's calling for Elijah. He's calling for Elijah. me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble.